What are your thoughts on this period of time and whether this is a moment or a movement?
Oh wow, great question. I love the way you put that. I think that this is a movement. I think that uh, timing is divine. I think that will is of man, but timing is divine. I think that gentlemen like Dr. King and Malcolm X were delivered to us in the time that they came because of divinity. And I think this particular time is also a crossroads in American and world history because of the circumstances surrounding it. It was a point where not just us, but society at large had to take a pause and look at what was happening to black people and what has happened to black people in this country. It was also a time when a lot of the facades of America were blown to smithereens. You couldn't believe in your safety. You couldn't believe in your mobility. You couldn't believe in the structures of the country because you had just watched all of them fail you. And you watched them fail you not over decades or over even 400 years. You watched the country descend into disarray in around 6 weeks. So when you're sitting back and you're seeing that happen, and you're seeing the fact that it's not the fact that America was a lie, it was an accidental lie, it was an intentional one, and then you see that man die and ask for his mother, you start to demand more from your country. And you start to look at people who are not demanding more for you, not as people who are ignorant, but as enemies. And the reality is that anyone who stands in the way of African American progress, black progress, they're not just ignorant, they're not apathetic, they're enemies. They are people who are for the status quo and for the heightening of their privilege and power, and would sacrifice your black body to make sure that they continue to be able to do that. And when you look at them that way, you change the dynamic of how things are supposed to go in this country. I think that if we lose steam, it'll be our fault. If they tip off in the NBA and we go, damn, the Lakers are hot again, and we stop doing what we're supposed to be doing, it'll be our fault. And to be honest with you, it might not be us who pay for it. You know what I mean? It might not be us in this moment who pays for it, right? Because a lot of people have built celebrity in this moment. A lot of people have built up platforms in this moment. There are a lot of people who weren't famous before this who are famous now, and so they might not be able to feel it because their voices have been elevated. But if we stop doing what we're doing now, we damn our children, and we damn people to experience this in a heightened way. Listen, if you look at white supremacy as a bully gets stronger the more you demonstrate that you can't beat the bully. So every day you come to class, right, and you get kicked in your ass or stuck in a locker, every single day, the next day is going to be harder. Eventually, you have to slap the bully or depower the bully, or else they become like a monster. And we're in a moment right now to where I feel like if we miss here, if we stop here, forgetting about what tip-off we have and what happens in November, if we let this moment go and we don't see substantive change in the trajectory of black lives in this country, then we've missed it, period. Like all of the work, everything that has been done for generations, the lives that have been given, Evers and King and all of these people, it was so that we could be powerful enough to have this moment right now that we're in. We're unified. Social media has galvanized us. We're ready. We're educated. We got a little bit more money than we've had before. This is our shot to change things in America for ourselves and our children. And if we miss it, for whatever reason, it'll be our fault. I went to black schools, like I went to McKinley High School, the one of the oldest historically black high schools in Louisiana. Went to McKinley Middle Magnet, same thing right there in South Baton Rouge, in the bottom where my mom and them was from. But what they do in Louisiana is a way to segregate you. Is like when I was in the fourth grade, I tested into the gifted program, and when you get in there, even that is like coded, right? Now, all the white parents, they know that there are all types of programs to where there's only 12 kids in the class and all of that stuff, so they gear up and they get those kids into those things. But for me, I had to like blow away the LEAP test, right? the standardized test, and I blew away the LEAP test, and they go, oh, wow, he's one of the special ones. And then they put me in these classes. And the reason why I had such a grasp of all of this stuff is because my mother, primarily, she told me a story. And it's very funny that we're talking about this. My mother told me a story before my first day of gifted classes. She said, I want to tell you what happened. It's a true story. So I want to tell you what happened. Like the day that pupil appraisal came and you qualified for the gifted program. She's like, I was talking to one of your teachers. And she says, I was talking to one of your teachers. I was talking to my teachers. And some kind of way we got into a conversation about why my sister is so light-skinned. I remember telling this teacher, well, way back in the day, black people are so light-skinned because way back in the day, we were intermingled through slavery and stuff like that. So my father has told me that, a couple generations ago, there were some white people in my family, and that's why you get a lot of the colors that you get with black people down here in the South. Now I'm just talking ignorant thing to say, but I'm like a kid, right? And the teacher goes back. She has a conversation with my mother, and she goes, well, my mom. She goes, well, I hear that Van has some white people in his family. And my mother goes, yeah, on his father's side, a couple of generations back, like that's interesting. And then she goes, well, that would explain the LEAP test stuff. That's a true thing. And my mother says to me, my mother goes, I want you to understand something. She goes, you have beautiful lips. You have an amazing nose. You have great skin. You look like a black king. In your mind, it's beautiful. Like you are enough. There is nothing about you that is less than anybody that's in your class. And she said, more than that, I want you to understand that you are the original man. And what you have meant to the world is more than any of your classmates could understand. And when you walk in there royalty, you walk out of there royalty. If they don't understand why you're handsome, if they don't understand why you're smart, if they don't understand why you're you, fuck them. And my blackness was not seen as something that I had to compensate for. It is what it's always been and what it always will be, a weapon against hate and ignorance, a pure weapon. And that weapon was given to me by my mother, who, by the way, shed tears over that conversation with that lady. She never forgets it. If you get her in the room, she'll tell that story. But she never wanted me to feel like I had to prove myself to anyone else. If anything, I felt like they needed to prove themselves to me.